Hey, what's up? Call the spaceships to Davenport. Prepare for divanarchy and interface with a couch in space. Oh no! All the space systems are 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 deciding whether or not we're going to. If today's the day that we're going to fly into the sun. I hope it isn't, because we got a really good show planned for you today, and we're just going to do a little bit of space action, because I suppose any action we would take out here in the cosmos could be considered a space action, but now that all systems seem to be functioning within normal parameters, it is great to see you once again. We get so lonely out here in the void that like interacting back with you guys there on Earth. Check out. Oh man, it was one of those Bandcamp Fridays. So this week's sponsor, as always, is Tiger Squawk Records. But go to this website anyway, because a bunch of new stuff got added. We couldn't get in for this advertising reel, but it still has the new single from Sugar Plum Suicide, the new full length from Isserly, Tapeworm Hole. You want to check out Volt 9000's Viral and Club Ovator's Impostorable at tigersquawkrecords.bandcamp.com. Batavia, not only quite mean-spirited, but their new single, Step 13, and the recording from the big Squawk Stock Festival, all available. Also a new single from Kionic, but we didn't get that in time for the advertising reel for this show because celestial astral space problems. You just don't want to careen into the Oort cloud. Yeah, I said Oort cloud. What's up? So, speaking of reaching out into the vastness, we're gonna delve into some really cool stuff today. I am really excited to talk to our space guest this week, because just the music I've been digesting has just been blowing my mind. I mean, like, I fly around like planets and stuff, so my mind gets blown pretty regularly. But this was like next level. This is like a supernova in my cerebral cortex. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dummy Plug Conspiracy. What is up, sir?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just careening through the cosmos, doing my thing. What's up by you back there on terra firma in your lovely studio? That looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, we're waiting for tropical storms to plow across my state right now down here in Florida. I don't think that's going to affect me too much, but that's about it. Taking it easy.
All right. Well, you certainly have not been. You may be taking it easy, but you haven't gone light on the music industry. Dummy Plug Conspiracy, coming up on 30 years of the project. I'm coming up on it myself, but I haven't hit that mark for a bit yet. For sort of the uninitiated, could you describe the Dummy Plug Conspiracy sound or sounds?
No, I can't, Brian.
Perfect.
I wish I could. Answer. I'd probably be very successful right now if I could have just marketed myself and landed in a bin at Tower Records and made it easy on everybody with a card behind my stuff. I've always described Dummy Plug Conspiracy as being extreme music, but don't assume it's extreme all on one side. It seems like I can do, I could take something really mediocre and make it extreme, and I'm not really complimenting myself. I'm if anything, pigeonholing myself when I say that. But I like to believe that when you experience a certain kind of art, you should probably drill down a little bit on that and see what the next one and the next one and the next one are, and find as far as it can possibly go in every category. And I've always done that with music. So when I started writing my own music, it was just sort of like the idea of doing something in the middle is just never even crossed my mind.
Absolutely. Like, why water it down? But you're all about yes. You're just taking it this next step and this next step till you're pardon the pun, in outer space. Like, you're just sort of in.
It's almost not even a pun. I'd say the quintessential dummy plug conspiracy experience is going to be the extreme Gabber House hardcore techno fused with extreme death metal. That stuff is probably what is most dummy plug conspiracy.
Okay. Daniel Walu says ghost emoji doing push-ups, and friend of the show, definitely Demolition says happy to see this. I'm happy to see Dummy Plug Conspiracy as the guest.
Happy to be here. Thanks for coming.
Well, let's. Oh, what's up, Deanna, friend of the show? So many people out for the big Dummy Plug Conspiracy episode. Let's do a little bit of a space taste. Oh, those rhyme. Here's a little music. Grasp Logic in the house. What's up, man? Celebrating 25 years. Guest of the show, the Red Side on Twitch, says that's what I'm talking about, and that's what we'll be talking about here on Space Couch. So that is some pretty incredible stuff, and wide-ranging. Like, we heard hardstyle, what you might call gabber, over to minimalist Detroit techno. Daniel says delicious. I certainly agree. You have just not decided that you wake up in the morning and you go, all right, I'm a drum and bass artist. Drum and bass sounds, go. What is your, if you can, like, how does the Rubik's Cube of your brain decide to put together a certain thing when it's music time?
So I would have answered that question totally differently back, years ago when I started doing this, of course. I'd say today, working kind of from front to back on that question, I got a wife and 2 kids. I work for a corporation. I own a home. It's safe to say that I don't get near this stuff until I've got it done in my head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's just, I don't have time otherwise. If I don't come in here with a pretty much finished idea of what I'm doing, it's just never going to get finished. And I'm not a perfectionist either. So I know Christian D and I have talked about this before. It's like, I'm never, ever going to come back and fix it.
Really?
So I have to get it right. Like, I have to come in and really make it count.
That is a very unique approach for Guess a Space Couch.
Yeah, I mean, so if you go back years ago before I had all these other commitments, I prided myself on very much being a sound design guy, looking for weird sounds and doing a lot of processing. stuff that I actually was kind of trained to do at a point when I was in college and stuff. When Sound Designer was brand new and we were using New Bus Pro Tools systems and things like that, they were all like totally cutting edge. I was working on synclaviers and
nice.
Moog modulars and things like that when I was in school, which is a very long time ago. I'm dating myself here, which is fine.
That's
But
all right. Hey, we fly around like galaxies and stuff, so it's like you're a nanosecond old out here in
time
space.
dilation, man,
There you
time dilation.
go. I'm
So I
actually
think back
dead,
in the
so like,
yeah, I mean, back in the day, I would have sat there for 3 days trying to get that perfect, goofy LFO sweep on something. I probably would have been so invested in that sound by the time I was done that I would have, quote, built a track around it, which
yeah.
is not the wrong way to do it. It's just not the right way for me anymore.
Mm,
So
okay.
I don't know if it's hurt me that much. I mean, I don't know. You guys are gonna have to tell me if
No,
my
I
stuff
don't think
sounds
so.
stale because I don't do that anymore. But
No.
it's a different approach though. That was also almost 30 years ago. I mean, you
Hmm.
gotta you gotta listen to the stuff that's come out since then, and you know how do you stay ahead of all that invention from all the corners of the globe,
Mm.
that all these people doing all this clever stuff. I almost feel like the line in Fight Club, being clever, how's that going for you? you know it's not going that great, frankly. I don't think being
uh,
clever is going to help me at all. I got to
well,
get in, make maximum impact, and get out. And
I
that's
hear
everything I write is conceptual, though. That's the one thing I can say, and the reason I'm all over the map is
you.
because
Hmm.
it's always conceptual. I don't
Mm.
know how to write without it being about something, which I think that
Interesting.
comes from listening to punk rock and hardcore and metal and stuff when I was younger. It's usually about something, because
Hmm.
if it wasn't, it wouldn't be very interesting.
Right. Well, I completely agree and follow suit. Yeah. Oh, the red side says you're being humble, but
Well,
the
thank
the uh, well, you certainly have been making good use of your time, not only to write a complete song in your head, but do live streams. You've
yeah.
been crushing it on the live stream tip lately. Um, let's show the people. This was from August, so let's show what we had going on. That was electric, pardon the pun. That was just lightning bolts shooting out of the screen. So much going on there. Um, do you have, how do I say it? Do you have like a live stream ethos? I know I wrote that down, but like that's the what's your sort of philosophy to live streams, if that makes sense?
No, that's a good question, because my philosophy is probably a little bit different, because I guess I'm just in it for different reasons. I mean,
Hmm.
in a way, I abandoned the idea of becoming super successful doing this a long, long time ago. And once you do that, you have a certain freedom to
Oh,
like
okay.
to sort of look at, if you're not in it for the money, and if you're not, you can really think outside the box a little. So the streaming thing to me can be really effective if you keep the pressure on and stream once a week or every 3 days or whatever. And that's a completely different approach, really, than what I'm going for. What I wanted to do, even before this pandemic thing happened and people
Hmm.
were streaming as a substitute for live, club shows and
Hmm.
tours and things. Even before that, I kind of thought to myself, what if I instead treat this like a tour rehearsal that I'm going to go and perform for
Mm.
6 months all around the world? And back when I was a kid, I know it was like, I was trying to think of a band that did this. a really prolific thrash metal band that I looked forward to coming to my town every year to 18 months because they, tour, release a record, tour, release
Right,
a record.
right.
And what I came up with was Overkill, if you remember Overkill.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, I wanted to see Overkill every 12 to 18 months when they came to town. I expected the show to be a little different with some new tracks. Hopefully, I liked the new record, but I also expected a different backdrop, different merchandise. I expected them to look a little different. I expected, and when I started thinking about live streaming, especially knowing I don't have the time to do it once a week or or whatever, I was like, I want to approach it like that. I want to do a show that represents a collection and then not do it again for maybe 5 or 6 months to
Okay.
kind of but put a lot of work into the presentation, which I
Sure.
didn't really do the first time. I am going to do this time. There's going to be video and
That looked
projection.
great. That was your low prep presentation?
That was in this room, man. This
Oh,
was
nice.
this was like, I wouldn't say low prep, no, especially since it was the first one I did. I mean, I really put kind of a lot of effort into it, but
Yeah.
this next one is going to be 10 times more effort. And I hope that it's going to have the effect of watching, a band that you like progress from tour to tour. And you're not going to get to see them do that once a month. You're going to get to see them do that once a year or maybe twice a year in my case, so that it stays fresh and there's something new every time. And I hope I can keep doing
Oh,
that.
that's great. That's a very interesting uh, uh mindset for such a thing, like, yet really treating it like a band that's coming through, that you get to see maybe once a year. And yeah, oh, that's
I want
great.
to feel special. And it puts a lot of pressure on me because now I have to figure
Mhm.
out how to use, video production software. I got to set up 3 PTZ cameras. I got to
Hmm.
run API into a PoE switcher. I got to get, multiple sources up on OBS and switch them live and mix video live and put,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
So
well, but it's going to be fun because first of all, it gives me more stuff to do. But I also you've got to create the balance where I've only got 2 hands and
right.
maybe
Oh, yeah.
foot. Like how can I still not cheat and make it as interesting as one guy can make it without having other people help me? Because again, you asked me what's the ethos. That's part of the
The
ethos. I am a
hell yeah,
one-man.
man.
I don't play well with others. I never did, and it's just I almost decided as a filtering factor, I can only do what I can do by myself, and
Mm.
it's totally antisocial, but that's
No,
how I work
I
best.
feel you. Like, for Gothico's live sets, it's like the steampunk version of it would be having like a string tied to each of my fingers so I can play
Yeah.
all the video and the OBS and all that. Oh, cathode ray tube is in the place and says DPC is my favorite space hippie.
Oh,
Um,
that's awful nice of you.
well, let's plug that. My body's going through a lot of changes. Let's plug that a little bit. Where and when can we catch this show?
Okay, so the next live stream is going to be performed outdoors. So
Whoa!
yeah, I'm going to perform by my pool outside, and it's going to be in December, and I want to say it's going to be mid to late December because
Okay.
I just I toyed with the idea of doing it on my birthday actually, which I
Hmm.
still might do. But anyhow, it's just weather dependent
Right. Right.
and just I'm inviting so many disasters here. Like I'm really stacking the deck against myself. But it'll be mid to late December. I'll again, anybody that's watching this that wants to get in touch with me, I guess Brian, you can tell them how. I'm just on Bandcamp or whatever,
Hmm.
and
Is that where you prefer
I'll
people?
invite you. So,
Pardon?
I'll invite anybody who wants to share info with me, of course. So
Yeah. So, are you doing that on Twitch or what?
I actually stream on YouTube. I've been giving
Okay.
some consideration to streaming, kind of like you're doing with that restream
Yeah.
and sending it out a few different ways, except Facebook. I'll never, ever, ever have the stink of Facebook anywhere near my
You
name.
have no
So
Facebook.
not seeing
Your
it there.
social media footprint is decidedly low, refreshingly so, I might say. So we should look for, as one word, Dummy Plug Conspiracy on YouTube around December.
Correct. And
Okay.
my channel is there. You can hop on, sign up, follow me. I do have a Twitch channel. I might stream it on Twitch
Okay.
also. Go find me there. And Bandcamp is, your best bet.
Bandcamp.
Double Plug Conspiracy on Bandcamp. I'm the only one.
Well, your URL. Correct me if I'm wrong, but should people go to the DXPX CX one?
I don't even know what that is. Is that my Bandcamp one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's your best bet. That's where all the merchandise is. That's where all the music is. You can certainly contact me through there. You can follow me there. I mean,
Okay.
again, I'm not too good at this, interacting with other human souls over the internet thing.
Well, that's where Space Couch comes in, and let us know here. We will certainly broadcast that information as it becomes available here on the Space Couch mega network, literally
Thank you.
spanning the globe, because I don't live there anymore, except when I do in Boston.
You're not missing anything, bro. I'd stay as far out as you can.
I hear you guys got some issues there on
A
terra
couple.
firma. Well, do this if you want, but Cathode Ray Tube says, Chris, tell him about the drum kit? Question mark. Um,
Oh, we talked about that
we talked
yesterday.
about that yesterday. Um,
Should
well,
we?
I
I'll
mean,
give you the
yeah, like let's just. I mean, we can't just bring it up and not tell.
I know, I
But
know.
let's.
Yeah, it's a real quick version. And again, I talked about this on if you're not familiar with Red Side interviews, Christian D does a really fun interview show too that I was on a long time ago. We talked about it there too, how my life has intersected with Moby so many times. It started just
That
becoming
Moby,
comical.
like the king of 1999 Moby.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And for a variety of reasons, not for any one reason. It's not like me and him are pals or something, but
right.
but yeah. So when I met Charles Cathode Ray Tube a long time ago through his roommate who I worked with at the time, I just needed some extra drum hardware, and I went over to pick it up. And Charles was the guy that answered the doors first time I'd ever met him. And as I was loading up the drum stuff, he said, that drum kit used to belong to Moby. Did Jay tell you that? And I'm like, no, I
So
didn't know
dope.
that. So, yeah. And then Charles actually became kind of an important figure in our lives over the coming months, where I introduced him to Christian D and
Okay.
a handful of other people that I actually I won't take credit for any of that. Charles is
Aw.
really good at organizing people. He had a really good idea to do a Boston compilation and kind of riff on the old "This is Boston, not LA" hardcore compilation name and call it Boston, not London, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was pretty smart too. And uh, long story short, if you haven't heard the Boston, not London compilation, I've heard about a million electronic music compilations in my life, as I'm sure a lot of you have.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to look back on it now, that compilation was really pretty special. It was cool. There was a good variety of stuff on it. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was geographically, this is what's happening right now in a particular place. And if you're a student of this stuff at all, it's really a historical document of a really cool scene in a really cool place. And I think we most of us like scattered after that too. It was sort of the last time
Mm.
you could have ever made a compilation like that. But he did it because he loves his stuff. So
Totally.
that was really cool. You should check that out. It's still out there, I think, Amazon or whatever.
I actually just got it in sort of preparation for this episode, and uh, I would viewers or listeners, I would advise going back to listen to the Cathode Ray Tube episode. That was a really great one, and but I'm sort of trying to retroactively become a good Bostonian. I'd never been before moving, and I've been here. I mean, I'm in space, but like on Earth, I'd have been there for like maybe 2-ish years, and so I'm listening to it now, sort of with fresh ears, and going
Sure.
like, "How is this 20 years old? It sounds like it could have come out 6 seconds ago. This was
Yeah.
like astronomically ahead of its time." You're of course on there as Dummy Plug Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And former guest of the show, Red Side in the guise of
Performing is technology scum.
technology scum.
Yeah, same guy.
And
Sometimes I perform as the Backstreet Boys. Same
right,
guy.
I mean, I get them
I
mixed up all the
periodically. It's my
time.
numb plume. Yeah.
uh, Definitely says drumcore, digital hardcore, Ukufumabana. If I'm not saying that right at all. Early IDM
That's right.
culture in Boston. all have connections to the Boston Not London compilation. Red Side says we used to play Boston College Radio, MIT Radio, and BU Radio.
I wish I had recordings of all of those shows, because they followed a familiar pattern where a bunch of us would pile into the studio and with our various rigs, some more complex than others. And while everybody else was focusing on playing really, really great music, I would go in the control room and suck all the air out of the show and like do my Howard Stern routine and try and just be as obnoxious as possible. This was a period in my life where I really was desperate to see some attention on the scene, and I thought personality might help. So I was like, all right, I'll be the asshole, and just shot my mouth off, and which is, that kind of became my persona in a way.
Okay.
It was sort of it was an alter ego. I don't think I'm really that guy, but it worked well with Dummy Plug Conspiracy. Okay. So that's how those usually went down.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Like we have an evolved Pokemon thing going on here. Speaking of I'm going to bring it back to Moby's drum kit for a second, because then I want to segue into gear.
Sure.
You seem to be something of a gearhead. What might you say your like workhorse go-to pieces of gear are?
Today?
Yeah, today.
Today it is primarily software,
okay.
Which on one hand I hate to admit, but I already kind of made my bones in the vintage collection world, so I don't apologize for making the decision that would enhance my workflow. Because let me tell you one thing about vintage gear, it ain't enhancing anybody's workflow. I can pretty much promise you that. I don't care if you're Vince freaking Clark, your workflow is hindered by vintage gear.
Right.
So I started collecting that stuff really early on. I grew up in upstate New York, where this just, Moog Electronics was based in Trumansburg, about an hour from where I grew up, and there was a good presence of vintage equipment around, and you could get your hands on stuff. I think a little easier there than some places. I had already bought my Mellotron by the time I was 20.
Damn.
Which is about as, that's about as far as you can go almost with vintage collecting. It's like, once you've got a Mellotron, now you've really got to get into things that are virtually one of a kind after that.
Like you literally can't go back further in history.
How do you top it, You can top it with other Mellotrons.
A Mellotron, I've never, as far as I understand it, I've never actually seen one, but did it play like a tape and then rewind the tape really quickly? So you would hit a key.
We talked about this on the Red Side interview too. It seems like all these years later, there's still a pretty, there's a misconception about how it works, because we're so in a loop mentality that people assume that it plays tape loops. That is not the case. Mellotrons play an 8-second tape strip with conventional capstans and pinch rollers, and you press that key and it pulls the tape over the playback head. But when you let go of that key, a spring-loaded turnbuckle sucks the tape back down, so that next time you hit the key, it'll start from the attack transient again. So the whole thing is unbelievably mechanically sketchy. And like I was saying, owning a Mellotron is a big commitment, and I wouldn't say it makes you especially productive.
No.
I used Mellotron on a lot of my early material, but again, I use the software version now. I'm more than happy to still douse my stuff in Mellotron, but I sold my Mellotron to the Psychedelic Furs back in 2007, I guess.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I honestly never looked back. I mean, right now the closest thing I've got to vintage is my Yamaha EX5 over here, which is kind of is one of my favorite keyboards of all time. But it's modern in quotes. It's from the late '90s, and but it's got it's programmable everything. It's got a great key bed. It's got awesome pitch wheels and controllers. And as a controller, it's awesome, and it's also got the broadest selection of sounds because of having the broadest selection of technologies on board. It's got Yamaha VL synthesis built in, which was a opener closed pipe resonator synthesis that does horns and flutes and stuff better than anybody has ever been able to do. It's got AWM synthesis that Yamaha put in all their analog simulation gear, so the CS6Xs and the CS2Xs. It's also got a sampling engine and just on and on and on. I mean, it's just the most powerful workstation on paper that probably anybody except maybe Kurzweil ever released.
Okay.
And I just always thought it was so great. So when I found a guy here in Tampa selling one for $80 because he thought it was broken,
it's the best. It's the best.
I went and gave him 60.
I love it. I love
and I
it.
was gonna sell it after, and I was like, you know what? No. And actually, Christian helped talk me into this. He was like, you should keep that, man, because he
Awesome.
watched me sell hundreds of these things back when we worked together. He knows how much I love this keyboard. He was like, you should keep that, and I
Very
did.
cool. Well, Missing in Stars Dan says, hey, Space Couch, Choke Chain from Wisconsin says, cool, I tuned into some nerd shit. Uh, Cathode Ray Tube says, as Chris said, we were the pioneers of DAWless jams. And I don't remember him being an asshole, he says. Have I missed the part where we talk about Chris's dope dreads? We can go there if you want. And definitely says, I remember his dreads being thick and long during Boston, not London shows like that one at MIT, where I think Dummy Plug blew the ears off anyone entering the room.
That was actually awesome. I contributed the sound system for that because I worked in that industry at the time, and we needed a PA for that show. Mm-hmm. So I kind of didn't pay much attention to what I actually put in the rental truck. I just said, let's get, I guess, the biggest bass bins and the biggest, dual tops and the biggest crown amplifiers. I guess no one's keeping track. I'm going to return it by morning anyway, so who cares? So we ended up loading all this stuff in. I mean, it wasn't Wembley Stadium or something, right. But when I played my set, I was dramatically louder than anybody else had played, but I was also dramatically more square wave than anybody else had played. So it was very distorted and very heavy and very loud and very whoop, 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 right. So evidently they didn't officially shut us down, but I think they did turn us down because one of the security guards walked by the outside of the building and noticed that the windows were going like this, and he was afraid they were going to explode. So if I had found that perfect resonant frequency of those windows, there's a good chance I could have made the building explode. But I didn't get there, which is sort of sad. That was my chance.
Super villain stuff. That's amazing.
I should plug, by the way, just talking about what gear I like to use. Yeah. The one thing I should plug is I got this freeware instrument called Bassmerda.
All right.
And Bassmerda is strictly a hardcore gabber kick drum plugin. That is all it does. It doesn't even play chromatic notes. You can hit any note on the keyboard and it's going to go boom. So everything in it, and it's got a lot of controls, is strictly for detailing extreme hardcore techno.
Very cool.
It is the greatest thing. I use it constantly. I love it.
Well, we absolutely love specific nerd stuff recommendations here on Space Couch. So thank you for that, and thanks for bringing it back to software. Because I actually got into a gear a little bit more since moving to Boston because we would do these like noise parties at Defley's house, and I'm coming from industrial goth world where it's pretty much all VSTs, and but like way back in college, I was just like all about leaning over a panel of distortion pedals, and getting back into that has been pretty fun. But yeah, if like you say, you're limited to like, I got 20 minutes today to knock this out. Yeah, you got to crack open some VSTs.
You can't waste 10 of those 20 minutes with a screwdriver in your hand. That's for freaking sure. I mean, right. I really I like where I'm at. My original intention with this rig, and this is like Rev 200 of the rig, but I'm all about workflow. I spend as much time agonizing over things like this patch bay and video processing. I'm using a Matrox triple head here to populate these screens, and then I've got a separate output for this screen. I work on a five display extended desktop, and one of the displays is a 42 inch TV. For me, the workflow part of this, I mean, I do this for a living too. Is really, really critical because I have now, especially integrating video, I have one new ultra powerful MacBook, and I have one generation back kind of also ultra powerful MacBook that is now dedicated to music. I'm running PreSonus Studio One. I really started using it strictly because they have a remote iPad app to start and stop the sequencer and arm tracks and stuff. I have a we're not going to get to tour my studio today, obviously, but I have a separate drum suite on my second floor.
Wow.
So for me to start and stop, I have the whole place wired. So I've got 8 channels of I have 6 microphone feeds and 2 headphone returns going up to my drum suite, but I need to be able to start and stop recording from up there, which I can now do over Wi-Fi. And PreSonus, I think, did that better than anybody.
Okay.
When I started actually getting into it, I realized it's the most similar to Cubase, though, of any of the current stuff. And I stopped using Cubase a long time ago. And again, the only reason I'm not using Cubase now is because they didn't have that remote feature really dialed in. So, yeah, okay. I use an Ableton is strictly on the live stuff. I don't use Ableton to compose ever. I frankly don't understand how anybody can. I don't feel like it's a songwriting tool at all. I think it's missing like at least 50% of what any like real studio musician would need.
People love it.
I don't get it.
I'm right there with you. Like I'm pretty like knee deep into Cubase. I think they can do the remote thing you're talking about. And like I've cracked open Ableton because like some people just like have the logo tattooed onto their arms and shit. And I'm like, it's cool. I got some great noises out of it, but like, where do we go for the song? I need to make the song. But
it might just be because I haven't spent enough time with it.
And likely, if I will say for me is because I just dabbled in it, and I've heard wonderful music made on Ableton, so I'm not knocking the product.
Well,
it did not make sense to me. What's that?
This is why I use Ableton. I don't use Ableton because of Ableton. I use Ableton because of the Akai APC-40 Mark II. With this, I can control all my live stuff. But the cool thing about these is you can also control video with them if you're using something like Resolume.
Very cool.
And that, to me, is like, if that was all I could do with Ableton, it's still enough. I just can't see myself writing music with Ableton. And it's funny, Christian and I, we have this good friend named Hal out in California who knows a lot about Ableton. And this is a guy that went to recording school at Berkeley. He's a smart guy who knows what he's doing. And if I could make my stuff sound as good as his, I'd be stoked. Don't misunderstand me.
Right.
But I bust his balls about Ableton. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he uses it. I think it's partly because he's so good at using Native Instruments Machine that the combination of the two is still working for him. But yeah, he makes some really good points sometimes when Christian and I are trying to figure out how to do stuff. He's just like, you should be using Ableton. You'd be fine. That's exactly what you're describing, you idiots. And
that's hilarious.
I know he's right, but
I know. They're all right. It's great. What's up to Noah Johnson in the chat room? Cathode Ray Tube says, I can teach you. And definitely says Resolume with 4 exclamation points. I love your focus on workflow. That's interesting. I should do that myself. Like I often find if I have like a 2-second delay in my workflow, I'll use that 2 seconds to be like, I'm gonna look up a cartoon from the '80s on Wikipedia, and I'll, an hour later, right. So yes,
that doesn't happen to me. I can tell you, if that happened to me, we wouldn't even be talking right now.
Amazing. So yes, like we here at Space Couch love the idea of take a second to examine your workflow.
Well, my challenge, I'll give you the 2-second explanation of my real challenge when I got this new computer is that nobody makes a dock that has USB-C, Thunderbolt 3, they call it, right? And Thunderbolt 2 on the same dock.
Okay.
So I actually had to, you can kind of see some components of it behind me here. I actually had to build a system that acts as a KVM, if you're familiar with that term, keyboard mouse switcher, which you probably use in tech support all the time. But I had to actually build a KVM that instead of switching between computers, switches between current and legacy docks. Because I have a Thunderbolt 3 dock on the old computer and a Thunderbolt 3 dock on the new computer. And I had to develop a workflow that lets me a combination of push button switching, and I'm big on custom panels, so I switch my video manually like a patch bay, but it's faster for me to do it that way than trying to dick around with some, some KVM that doesn't really do both in one box. So that was my big challenge recently. And I got it nailed. It does work. It's just not what I was hoping. I still got I've got a FireWire hard drive here. Okay. You can't get anything with FireWire on it anymore.
FireWire, man, I use that.
So that means I got to keep the hard drive, and I've got to keep the dock it connects to, and I've got to keep the computer that's connected to the dock. I don't have options for any of my legacy stuff except to find a way to switch between docks. So luckily it works.
It's crazy. Frankenstein.
Yeah, and I got optical cables and everything to connect it because they're more than 15 feet apart. Once you get past 15 feet with USB 3.0 or 2.0 for that matter, you have to switch to fiber optics to maintain data throughput. So I've got fiber running into my alcove over here, so it all works.
Wow, I thought I was on a spaceship here. I just got a divan that I made go cosmic. That's dope.
Hey, it looks great though, right? We got to use the right tools.
Absolutely. Speaking of sci-fi, let's get a little esoteric here. It's kind of a space couch tradition. So choose a sci-fi property or properties, and if you say if you could distill like the essence of like 3 of your musical influences into a sci-fi property, what might that be?
I love this question, by the way, and I thought about this a lot. This is the stuff you do when you're washing dishes. You know, you think about
totally
like this. So, yeah, so I've got answers actually. As hard as that question is, I have answers. First of all, one of my favorite musicians ever, and all these people I'm going to talk about are in my top 5, of course. Is a band called Swerve Driver that did pretty well in the 90s, and Adam Franklin is the frontman of that band, who plays the guitar and does the vocals and write the lyrics. And in fact, on some of the records, he played the bass and the second guitar. He did the drum and initial tracks. He's very, very involved with the productions, and he's a tremendously talented guy. And he's sort of a Renaissance man in that way, where he can do all that, and he can sit down and write really brilliant, interesting lyrics, which is like, I've always said, like, talented people are very rarely talented in one field. They're usually talented in several. And he's one of those guys. So I liken him to a classic Star Trek episode called Requiem for Methuselah, where they meet this alien on a planet who seems to have all of these highly collectible things, like a Brahms, a piece of music by Brahms that they've never seen before. They're like, well, this is obviously by Brahms, but it's not one of the ones we've ever seen. And, he's got... by the end of the episode, they find out that throughout Earth history, he actually was all of these people. He was Brahms. He was Mozart. He's been living this massively long life. He was Napoleon. He was all these different guys, and that's how it all comes together.
I don't know that one.
Franklin as being like that. He's kind of the melding of all of those disciplines in one guy.
That's such a good answer. All right.
I told you I thought about it.
You certainly did, sir.
So I spend like 3/4 of my life washing dishes, it seems.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I got your next one ready.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
I think my favorite band performing today, who's like a current act, that's in their heyday kind of, is called KO Dot. Okay. KO Dot is actually from the Boston area originally. Before they were KO Dot, some of the same guys were in a band called Maudlin of the Well. Maudlin of the Well was kind of this really complex, long song, sweeping, kind of gothic metal thing. You probably love it. You should check them out. Maudlin of the Well. The frontman and creative force in that band, that really is the frontman of both Maudlin and KO Dot, is a guy named Toby Driver. And Toby is this kind of brilliant, almost like Steely Dan-esque frontman, where he puts together the band he needs at any given time to perform the songs that he writes. And he's not he's not going to leave anything to chance with his creative process or his material. He'll get what he needs. And I liken him to Eldon Terrell from Blade Runner, who builds replicants. I see Toby as being this guy who's like, well, I'm going to need one that can do this. I'm going to need one that can do this. And I'm going to need one that can do this. I better go make that.
Oh, very good. Very good.
And populate the new iteration of KO. With the people that can perform those tasks. Off-world kick murder squad or whatever it happens.
Yeah.
He will build what he needs to make KO. Work for the music.
Oh, very cool.
Again, got to check out KO. They're so great. It's just awesome.
Okay. I was going to ask how to spell that, but Cathode Raytube has put the URL in the chat room.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, sir. Good. That answer has burned very, very brightly. Yes. One more.
Third one.
Yeah.
Third one, I think, is an easier one. One of my favorite bands of all time from lovely Jonquière, Canada, is Voivod. And Voivod,
yeah,
sci-fi thrash, proto thrash, very Canadian in lots of ways. And their guitarist Denis D'Amour, who went by the name Piggy, I would say there's no goddamn question that guy is a Dalek. Absolutely, positively. Every note he's ever played makes me think of an evil robot coming to get you.
Okay.
And Piggy unfortunately died a few years ago, and his legacy is definitely that sci-fi, weird, dissonant, very kind of spindly guitar parts. Nobody's ever really sounded like him. I'd say the only person that ever really came close was maybe Robert Fripp.
Really?
40 years before. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So
good stuff.
There you go.
That is one for the 2020 Space Couch highlight reel. Thank you for that. We must have hit some sort of wormhole here in space, because our hour is just flying by. I do want to know, for such a long running project, how do you see DPC as having evolved? And if you had a portal to go back and tell your younger self something vis-a-vis music, what might that be?
Well, I see myself as devolving in a lot of ways. I think I don't know what it is exactly. There was a time when I thought there was a certain virtue in making things as complicated as possible, if you hadn't noticed, right? It's just, unfortunately, part of my personality. I mean, I'm the son of an engineer, and it just happens like that. You're wired like that. So what happened is, after I actually got signed to Industrial Strength Records back in the late 90s, which was like, if you're into this kind of stuff, that is the label.
Right.
I mean, that's it. That's as big as it got. And that's kind of like having, if you're a guitarist, having Jimmy Page call and say, hey, be on my record label. This is, Lenny D calling and saying, hey, be on my record label, was sort of a big deal for me.
Right.
And I did it, and it was fine, but I was like in so many aspects of my life, I was always the total oddball on that label, where most of these guys were, DJs who got into music production and really were just trying to make more music for more DJs to play, who would themselves eventually someday get into music production. It's like, so that's not my approach at all. You can imagine how poorly I did in that peer group. And I hit a point where I sort of parted ways with them, and I stopped recording completely for a long time.
Really?
And then I guess 4 years ago, I had a bit of a pilgrimage where I actually I went to the Netherlands. My family, my 2 kids, they were younger at the time, of course, but we do a backpacking trip once a year where we'll go out of the country for 3 weeks with nothing but a backpack. No checked luggage. If you want it, you carry it. My daughter's been doing this since she's 5 years old. She's very good at the rules of that trip. This past year, we did Japan, China, and Macau.
Get out! Wow.
Yeah, we did Europe. We've been all over Europe. And anyway, this first time we did it, we went to the Netherlands. And of course, Rotterdam is the home of this kind of music. And the Rotterdam, if you've ever been to Rotterdam, it's such an industrial, like shipping town. It's on the ocean, of course. And Rotterdam is like we didn't get to spend much time there, unfortunately, but that was almost like sort of a pilgrimage for me. And I came home thinking, that's it. It's nothing but straight ahead gabber for me from now on. You know, throw all my other gear away. All I want to do is make eardrums bleed. I'm not going to be interesting. I'm not going to be compassionate. I'm not going to have concepts anymore. I'm just going to until somebody makes me stop. And that lasted for months, but it also took me months to record those first 2 or 3 songs because I'm so freaking slow. So now I'm at a point where I'm doing equal measures of IDM experimental, extreme gabber house with the metal thrown in, and sort of ambient soundscapey stuff. Sometimes in the same song. Like I'll give you 9 minutes of 3 minutes of one, 3 minutes of the other, 3 minutes of the last, and it's just all part of my. It's part of my promise to you, the listener, to have you alienated at least 2/3 of the time, no matter what.
Well, we are all about aliens here on the Flying Couch, and yes, I will back up that statement. If you want bang for your buck, you want to check out the W Plug Conspiracy Bandcamp at DXPXCX Conspiracy. I
Yes.
forget what it is. You'll find it. Because
I'm the only dummy for conspiracy so far.
You will get an album's worth of material per track. It is awesome. It's really wonderful.
Thank you.
So would the advice then to your younger self or whoever be to not pigeonhole yourself or think that you have to be this thing?
I think it would be more of, you know, I was pretty keyed into developing a personal brand, I think, early on, because I could easily see myself getting lost in the noise if I didn't. And at the time, I guess there were so many electronic artists coming up, and I never ever could have foreseen that it would get this far, of course. Now that, you know, not that I consider EDM to have anything to do with what we're talking about here, but I think I'd have told my younger, earlier self to forget about popularity right now.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
Yeah.
If you ever, and I think I did a pretty good job not making any artistic decisions that were anyway driven by my desire to please others. I think anybody that listens to the material will agree that, you know, clearly I'm not trying to get likes or whatever the fuck people do. But I just there were certainly times when I was playing to the room and like I said, it was almost an alter ego thing. And I don't think I'm not embarrassed by it or anything, but it certainly didn't help. It didn't do really anything for anybody. For me on my deathbed to go back and listen to these songs, they're just going to be songs. I'm not going to be thinking about, you know, how badass I looked all sweaty and shirtless at that club that time. I'm not going to be thinking about how I shot out some zinger on college radio and you know, said something really clever. I'm not, you know, I'm not going to be thinking about what. It's going to be music. It's going to be music that I hope will outlive me. And, you know, that's name on a library stuff, right? That's how do you survive beyond your contribution? And the only way you can do that is if it's quality stuff. And it's very unusual for brilliant people to be recognized, you know, during their lifetime. We've seen that plenty of times, right? Instead, we're busy recognizing morons, and it takes a lot of our bandwidth, doesn't it?
It takes
you know?
a lot.
I can't. I'm watching Chris Lee Knows Best. I can't pay attention to this brilliant 21st century classical composer who's going to be, you know, the most relevant human being on earth. If when people look back at 2020, they're going to remember 2 things, right? They're going to remember an election that was kind of a joke, and there's going to be, I think, a lot of. I think it's going to be really blurry to people in the future whether that was a TV show or an actual thing. Like, was that a real thing? That's what they're going to remember from 2020, unfortunately. But it's not going to be it's the product. The product has got to be the product, and I guess that's good advice for anybody, unless they're trying to make a lot of money or, you know, be an Instagram.
Well, no, that's true. Like I'll go back and listen to my stuff, and I the some of my worst stuff is like when I had this weird idea that I would be the next Combi Christ was big at the time or whatever.
You know Joe Letts? You ever met him?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. We've played together a
Good.
couple times.
He's a friend of mine from back
Oh,
in
okay,
the.
awesome. Yeah,
I
tell him the
worked with him for a
Gossicles
while.
guy said hi. But then when I finally was like, I'm just gonna no, let's just write songs about otters. I felt like not only did I feel like good, like the product got way better. So it's
Yeah.
like because I'm not trying to do this other thing. That was such a great out that I almost want to end the episode, but I want to ask about this a little bit because you brought up
I'll do
in
this all day, man.
well, please come back. I rarely offer backseat invites while the guest is still on the show, but you have a permanent re-invite to Space Couch. This is
We'll do
fascinating.
a we'll do one of nothing but name dropping industry stories next time. I could
Perfect.
easily I could
That'll
fill 6 hours with that crap.
that'll be the
We should
most
do
viewed
that.
episode of the year. Uh, well, speaking of name dropping, you did some stuff with Industrial Strength, not only them, but Digital Hardcore as well, Atari Teenage Riot, and a lot of your stuff on like at the Bandcamp that Charles was just nice enough to drop in the chat seems to be self-released. So, do you how has that experience been for you, like label versus I'm just gonna do this thing?
Oh, terrible, of course. I think here's the thing, man. Would it have been any better if I'd been on a label?
Mm,
No, it wouldn't have mattered. Because then I would have been selling. Excuse me.
mm.
I would have been exposed to the same number of people, except I would have had to hobnob with music industry types, which is like the worst. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So if you're asking me, am I better off like that than like this? Look, man, I worked in the music industry for a long time. I'm not
Mhm.
looking for anything from those people.
Okay.
And, at the same time, there's always the question where if you found that one influential person who thought you were great and decided to run with do you really have a reasonable chance of that, blowing up your career? Well, I can tell you something. I was already on the best record label I could possibly be on.
Mhm.
And when they offered me that European tour, I mean, I had a job. I made plenty of money. I had a
Right,
life.
right.
And I was like, I gotta hang out with these fucking jagoffs, smoking dust and sleeping on floors in Prague and Budapest I don't think so, man. I
Yeah.
don't think I'm interested. And it's not because I wouldn't have liked to play the shows. It would have been great fun,
Mhm.
but it would have been one of those experiences where I came back and said, I am never,
Right.
ever playing live ever again. This was the worst thing I ever did. You know, and on top of it, there was risk. I
Yeah.
didn't want to lose my job. I didn't want to lose my life. I didn't want to walk away from a loft in Brooklyn that I loved and was paying $1,500 a month for
Wow.
to go make no money for 60 days.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? And that was it. That was my fork in the road. I
Mhm.
went from idolizing these people and wanting to do nothing except be a rock star for the first 29 years of my life
Mhm.
to turning down my opportunity to go do it
Mm.
because I grew a brain in between there. And I guess that makes me a bad artist. I don't know, but I think my art would have suffered if I had done that. Really, I think I
Really?
made the right choice. So
Just because you're just a steady diet of McDonald's and road food and like you said, sleeping on floors would have just caught up with you, or why do you think that would have been bad?
I'm pretty rustic. I could have handled all that. I
Yeah.
really think it was just the people. The people that
Ah.
I had met so far in that scenario. Not only did I have nothing in common with, but I
Mhm.
really felt like they were volatile people. Some of them were downright dangerous. I had
Mhm.
no interest in seeing what they were gonna,
For
seeing
sure.
what variables they were gonna throw into
Right.
this. Or I could see it going off the rails really easy, and I was just like, that's not me. It's not me.
Okay.
I'm a stable guy. I don't have this need to be out of control.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a good fit. So
I hear that. Well, I mean, we could do an entire episode, I think, about what it's like to be the weirdo among weirdos. Like
oh yeah.
you kind of you find uh, you know they don't play Gabber on the morning drive. Like you kind of got to seek it out, And then now that I'm in this sort of subset of people, I'm now the weird one. Like that's the next level, and
Yeah.
could probably do an hour on that. But we are on this rogue flight path here out in space, so I got to bring the couch back to the station
Definitely.
for a little oxygen refuel. But I do want to know what is next for the mighty dummy plug conspiracy.
I have the stream coming up, obviously, that I alluded to. I think I plugged it plenty. Considering I have nothing to offer you in terms of a date yet, it would be crass for me to keep plugging.
Well, we'll figure
It's
that out.
it is going to be neat though. I mean, I've got it about 70% produced. And now I've got to rehearse it. You know we're talking 188-inch projection screen next to the pool. It's a 3-camera shoot. It's going to be automated in various ways, and there's going to be guitar, bass, accordion, all of my usual electronic stuff. And it's going to be a retrospective of almost 30 years of intelligent experimental music from my catalog start to finish, ranging right up through the most recent song I did. And I think it's going to be special for me. I hope everybody likes it, but I got to do this either way. Honestly,
Okay.
I've never been able to take a body of work like that and really put some effort behind presenting it. It's always just been released as it's done, and I need to do this, so I hope you'll join me.
Okay. Yo, yeah. I feel that. Like this has to happen. No, I definitely that resonates. As has this wonderful hour. So, we'll do our best out here in space to boost that signal whenever that date becomes available. You want to check
Please.
out current offerings from Dummy Plug Conspiracy and future super live shows. So, um, this is Brian for Space Couch, for Chris for Dummy Plug Conspiracy, saying call the spaceships to Davenport, prepare for Devanarchy, and interface with a couch in space. And we're getting a little fretwork as an outro here.
I'm playing you out, man. I'm playing you out.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Space couch out. Yes. All right. We're doing what Japan is like to walk through, and Macau, or see if I'm messing up the
Yeah.
pronunciation on that.
Macau is a weird place. Macau is China's Vegas, but Macau was a Portuguese colony until not too long ago. So you've got lots of Portuguese everything there, but it's like a gambling stronghold for Chinese people. And look, Chinese people are serious about their gambling. So never in your life mistake it for oh, I'm gonna go play the machines for a couple minutes before dinner. No, dude. Chinese people are there to really, really gamble.
You're walking through this with like your family, and it's got to be like another planet.
It was interesting. I mean, it's not the most foreign place we've ever been,
Okay.
because in a way there's some, you're sort of grounded in that there's tourism there at
Okay.
least.
Oh, there is.
Uh,
It's a very touristy. Okay.
yeah, but we've been some places that are really not touristy. Those are usually the places that seem the most foreign. There's certain parts of rural Germany, like we went to Neuschwanstein